Welcome to this digital presentation entitled Evidence-Based and Authentically Holistic Universal Wellbeing Model Emerges from a 16-year research program. This presentation was prepared for the 11th European Conference on Positive Psychology held in July 2026 in Dublin, Ireland. My name is Susan Stevenson and I'm the Director of the Freedom, Wellbeing and the New Zealand Curriculum Design Research Institutes, working from New Zealand globally. The Universal Wellbeing Model emerged from a 16-year wellbeing research program. The program began with the narrow objective of improving higher education completion rates through holistic pastoral care and wellbeing supports. It should be noted that there are three main wellbeing research paradigms: psychology, medicine, and health sciences, who generally focus on the diagnosis and treatment of clinical poor well-being conditions. Then there is the multidisciplinary and authentically holistic paradigm, which focuses on the development of well-being literacy and the achievement of human potential. The third paradigm focuses on special populations and aims to support well-being through ethnic and culturally responsive methods and approaches. This particular presentation is based in the second paradigm noted here. The background to this investigation, or the program of investigations conducted, were entrenched national and global issues with low higher education attendance, retention, and achievement rates. Recent literature reviews have found that generally those achieving online learning programs sit between 12 and 30%, and those students entering higher education pathway programs prior to entering a degree generally graduate at between 20 and 40%. And those entering the first year of a higher education degree are generally completed by between 20 and 48%. The cost to the students, the staff, and the institutions of these low achievement rates are significant. Our research objective was to identify an evidence-based wellbeing definition, a model that could explain wellbeing, and practices that were powerful enough to support understandings and measurable improvements in wellbeing. Specifically, we wanted to progress attendance, student retention, educational achievement, and equity outcomes in higher education and eventually in other settings. We addressed over the period of the program 4 key questions. What is well-being? How is well-being influenced? How can well-being be measured? And how can well-being be improved and maintained over time? We've used a range of diverse fit-for-purpose methods: themed literature reviews, meta-theory reviews, use-inspired practice research, quantitative, qualitative, and mixed method investigations. Perhaps most powerful has been an impact evaluation and grounded theory. The results of our many investigations over the last 16 years have led to 4 key results. the development of a lay and research definition of universal well-being. We have also identified the 70 determinants of universal well-being and the extensive evidence base that sits behind and connects each of these to literature in diverse disciplines. Also emerging has been the Universal Wellbeing Model, a completely evidence-based, multidisciplinary and authentically holistic explanation of what well-being is and how it works, and also the Universal Wellbeing Evaluation Tool. I speak about this in another presentation. The Universal Wellbeing Model is comprised of 5 components and supports a statement made by Lindsay Oades at Melbourne University some years ago. It is hierarchical and multifaceted in form. The first component in the model are sensory inputs. These are all the things we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch that come into us as we live. They might be from real live experiences, or they could in fact be digital. Over our lives, these will influence the status of our well-being. The second component in the model is cognitive processing, and this component sums up what happens when these sensory inputs arrive at the brain. The role of the brain in identifying threats, and perhaps these could result in trauma responses, also how we process, classify, and learn from the inputs, and also how we interpret the meaning of these inputs. And then the brain chooses to generate chemical and behavioural responses. The behavioural responses show up in the third component, what we call the dimensions. So these manifest as social, physical, intellectual, cultural and ethnic, emotional and spiritual behaviours. The fourth component of the model are the 70 determinants of universal well-being. These determinants were identified through grounded theory investigations where we identified the particular behaviours that most either contribute to improving our universal well-being or in fact harm our universal well-being and may actually move us in another direction. The final component in the model are the principles. These critical principles guide the use and interpretation of the model in practice. In summary, the model is holistic, integrated, it views all dimensions of being as equal importance. The model is designed to empower those who learn about it and gain universal well-being literacy, and it's also designed to be responsive to diverse people. This is an image of the full universal well-being model and all the components I've presented. The lay definition of universal well-being simply says that universal well-being is the science of realizing human potential. I've shown here on the screen the research definition of universal well-being. This definition is designed and is tested in all research conducted using the Universal Wellbeing or Universal Wellbeing Evaluation Tool. I thank you for your time and joining me to hear a little bit about the Universal Wellbeing Model, and I would encourage you, if you have interest in research, trying this model or the evaluation I speak about later, to simply make contact. We welcome working with other people. Thank you for your time.